Well, hello everyone. Welcome back for another cruise. Let's start it up and get it warmed up. Let's see, it's been, maybe a little over a week. No, it's not been a week. It's been about 4 days. Let's see, I'm going to try to start it without priming. Let's see. 2 kicks to set the choke. Ignition on. Let's see what happens. Let's close up this other pneumonia hole because it's cold this morning. We'll see if we need any heat. But anyway, question. Since I'm hauling garbage off, does that make me garbage? Stay tuned and let's get this show rolling. Good. Seems like always can't think of something to talk about when I'm doing a cruise. But this week, this time, there's all kinds of big elephants in the room. And although one of them is a topic I normally avoid, I believe we're going to talk about it a little bit. Stay tuned. Let's talk about it. Anyway, I'm going to pull in here to the dump. Get rid of the garbage. Everybody's here today. It was closed yesterday. Yesterday was Veterans Day. Anyway, be right back. Well, all right. Got me a lifer juice, but I didn't get my honey bun today. They were out of them again. So, man, I'm going to have to talk to him about that. I also turned my heat back way down, and I got my window cracked. It didn't take long for this thing to heat up. Oh, get rid of that. I'll be turning that heater back off to as warm as it's feeling. Maybe I get some air rolling, it won't be as hot. That's why it's hard to drive this thing in the summer. There's my Vietnam era buddy. Out there in his wheelchair, and his dog. Real friendly. Anyway. So, what's the big elephant in the room that we want to talk about? Well, of course, it's got to be that resounding victory of Donald J. Trump getting to be the 47th president of the US of A. And there's a lot of questions that beg to be asked and answered. And well, maybe I'll just touch on a few and go from there. I think one of the primary questions I guess people from other countries may have is, how could the American people elect a so-called, or not so-called, a convicted felon from what many consider to be a bogus, politically motivated trial. But a jury in New York City, obviously not his peers, nonetheless, found him guilty on like 34 counts of charges that, majority of you all that watch this channel are boomers as such as myself, so I don't need to watch my language too much. So I'm going to just call it like I see it. Charges that are just bullshit. But beside that, people are going to say, how in the world did you do it? Well, do it meaning, how did you vote for it? Well, what I say is, we. Now, when I say we, I'm going to be talking about the 200, maybe 300 people that I know personally, that I interact with on a regular basis, who I know see a lot of things similarly to me, to what I do. And I should have cut some gas then. That's what I forgot to do. I needed to get some gas. Well, there'll be an ample stop. But anyway, so when I say we, I'm talking about 250 to 300 people that I know. Now we got us an situation here. Okay. Building back in there. Looks like they're going to run some electric underground or something. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Christmas stuff already had. Why? Okay, so when we say we. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the 70 some odd million people that voted for him this past election, because I don't know all their reasonings. And actually, the 250, I'll say 300 people that I know, I can't 100% say that I know everything, every reason why they voted for him, but I know a lot of the reasons, and that's what I'm going to talk about and touch on a little bit. So, the first answer I'm going to address is the Democrats had a piss poor candidate. And the candidate even before was piss poor. But by hook and crook, he was able to win. I'll touch on that shortly. But in the last two presidential election cycles, the Democrats had piss poor candidates. Now, but I'm just going to talk about this last one. I may touch on Biden's advent, but we'll just concentrate here on Harris, Kamala, whatever her name is. Whatever she prefers to go by. And I heard her pronounce it both ways. So anyway. So, you had piss poor candidates. And we, again, the 300 I'm talking about, saw through their lying eyes. Why do I say that? Well, first off, the way they went about running their campaign was on divisiveness. Divide and conquer. I heard so many negative terms used against people they didn't think were going to vote for them. I mean, they gave us down the road. And some terms that may on the surface not be negative, they used it in a negative connotation. That's how we perceived it. Now, some people respond to negative criticism and browbeat themselves into accepting it. Most of us don't. Most of us don't think we're Nazi sympathizers, or that we're garbage, or that we're deplorable. And yes, we do live in flyover country, but we don't see that as negative. But it was used that way. So divisiveness, number one. That's what made their platform, one of the reasons why their platform lost. Now, make a turn here. Get on the more scenic back roads. another reason that we voted against the Democrats is because we felt that they were representing the elitists, and not us. They like to use the term working folks. Well, I've been blue collar and white collar, and I've had to work in both roles. So that's a misnomer, although that's what they wanted to do. I guess they could have said blue collar, or they could have said either non or partially college educated people. But in either way, they meant it in a derogatory fashion. They being the elitists, assumed that we didn't know the issues and that we would walk lockstep in drinking their Kool-Aid. Now, if you don't know what that terminology means, you can look up Jim Jones and a bunch of people he led to another country because they weren't happy in America. And when it come out to find out that he was doing very bad things, and the American government was coming after him in that foreign country, he got all those people to drink poison Kool-Aid. They all died, thousands. But anyway, and the mainstream media was complicit in spreading the propaganda, the untruths, the distortions, and the lies. Now, we saw that because we would get our news from other sources besides them, okay? Ooh, a little spinning. You know, instead of going for a sound bite and taking that as the gospel, that, oh yeah, that's what he said, you know, that means he's a Nazi. Yeah, he said that. We actually looked and found and listened to and watched the full comment. And 99% of the time, we found out that what the mainstream media and the Democratic Party were accusing him of was inaccurate. And in a lot of cases, just flat out a lie. So, we saw that. So, any credibility that the mainstream media had was lost. Now, I've questioned the mainstream media since the 80s. Now, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I don't want to get on him too much because he's passed away and gone. But the Boys of America, when he passed, you know, when he's handed his torch down and he gave it to Dan Rather, that's when the mainstream media went downhill bad. Now, I'm a Marine, and I was already honorably discharged in the 70s when we had Marine peacekeepers sent to Beirut to try to keep these people from killing themselves and killing innocent people. That's really not a good role for our Marine Corps, but that's what they did. They sent us over there as peacekeepers. Now, terrorists, suicide terrorists, drove a truck into a Marine barracks through an armed sentry and made it past the armed sentry and exploded themselves in the barracks, killing over 200 Marines and Navy corpsmen personnel. Dan Rather called them people freedom fighters. He didn't call them terrorists. He didn't call them murderers. He called them freedom fighters. From that point on, I questioned everything Dan Rather said, CBS said. I began seeing 60 Minutes as being biased. I started seeing them all being biased. And but I think Dan Rather led the charge. You know, and I guess you can tell Dan Rather is not a good person in my book. Anyway, since him, I've always questioned the mainstream media. It's not because Trump is running. It was way back, way before. It was during Reagan when I started questioning the way they would go after Reagan. But anyway. So I don't trust mainstream media, and it ends up 75% of it is biased to the left, and they don't even attempt to be unbiased. You might as well say that they're just the propaganda wing of the leftists that dominate the Democratic Party now. Now that in itself is kind of strange, in that I've got family members and friends that voted for Harris and Biden. They will always vote Democrat, no matter who's running. They're red dog Democrats. In other words, they'll vote for a red dog. They'll vote for a dead dog before they would a Republican. But they're old school. They think the old school way. They think we're exaggerating in the few times that we talk about politics. But on the whole, we try to avoid it because, you know, it just causes problems. And we, again, I'm talking about the people I know, want to be accepting of everybody and not run people off just because they look different than us, not because their politics are different, not because they don't talk like us. That's because, just to touch a little bit on our religion, Christianity tells us to do that, to be accepted. God loves everybody, regardless. But I'm not going to chase that rabbit. Now, if we want to do this kind of stuff more, I can touch on some of those topics too, but I'm just going to go away from that. I just want to point out that we, being the politically conservative people I know, are accepting, whereas the opposition, the radical leftists that we oppose, are divisive. So anyway. So the mainstream media contributed to the lies. So the lies, that's and the deceit and deceiving is another reason why we voted the way we did. Now, some of the lies indicated that that Trump was a Nazi, therefore we're Nazis. Again, we're boomers. I'm a boomer, and I know most of the people I'm talking about are boomers. Well, at least half of them. A lot of them are young, believe it or not. But we're the offspring of people that not only fought against the Nazis, I'm talking about shooting bullets at each other to try to end their domination, but of our people, the civilian relatives, who had to suffer through shortages and low economic times to be able to support our fighting men and women to defeat the Nazis. So calling us Nazis is also not a good way to garner our vote. I'm turning my heater off, and I may open my air conditioner here shortly. I'm in the shade and it's cold. And it's warm. tried to distort the fact that Trump was president for 4 years previously. And we didn't have a Nazi resurgence. We didn't have, matter of fact, we had better economic times than we had under Obama or Biden. In both Obama's terms, we had the winds of war were dying down. He had negotiated, him being Trump, had negotiated an out of Afghanistan, the longest war we've ever participated in. He was bringing minorities to the White House to discuss disparities and address them and correct them. More money to the HBCs. He actually even getting pardons for people wrongly convicted in jail, which happened. Now, so the times were good, and the bad things that they said would happen if he became president this time, it didn't happen then. And so they were trying to make us believe that he was going to do all these bad things. And, well, again, we didn't believe their lying eyes. All right, immigration. Let's talk about immigration, because that's a biggie also. Now, in Trump's first term, he was trying to build the wall. He was trying to strengthen the southern border to close it up, to get it more under control. His first 2 years, he had to battle the never-Trumpers and the entrenched Republicans that were more deep state than they were Republicans. I personally think they were well compensated to be the bad guy, kind of like in wrestling, you know. You got the good guys and the bad guys. Well, I think that a lot of those never-Trumpers were happy to get large sums of money and whatever bennies they could derive from going along to get along. So he had to battle them. Had a piss poor Speaker of the House that wouldn't get his agenda going. And then the American people turned out to put the Democrats in control of the House, which put probably one of the most evil and deceitful politicians I've ever known, and that being Nancy Pelosi, put her in charge of the House. So the the last 2 years of his first term was spent, instead of taking care of the people's problems and needs, was spent trying to impeach him. And they did it twice. Thank goodness we had the Senate controlled by the newer elected Republicans that just saw through that charades and the false pretenses they were using to impeach him, and didn't go through with the full impeachment. But as far as history is concerned, he's been impeached twice by the House. Now, how can you get anything done when the administrative branch of government is constantly battling the purse string branch of government, the branch of government that makes laws and controls the purse strings, and not even trying to meet halfway on anything. So his second now, so what I'm pointing out is, although he had tremendous opposition all 4 years, we still enjoyed a whole lot better economic life, and again, we were getting out of wars. All the while he's battling tooth and nail with the Congress and the mainstream media. So the first things Biden and his administration did was to go in and quit, and so Trump couldn't get stuff passed by the Congress to close the border. So he was using whatever means he could to come up with the funds, and he used executive orders. Well, the first thing old Biden did when he got in there, he signed them away, and lo and behold, the border swung wide open. They took the gate down. Now, what kind of economic impact does that have? Now, there's been such a huge negative impact. We can talk on that. But let's just talk about the economic. All right. Now, I saw this congresswoman grilling some of the Biden administration over the, I don't think it was Homeland Security. I think that they had something to do with the finances of the of what we're spending. The federal government spending. She pointed out in Biden's 4 years that the federal government has spent over $66 billion on the illegal aliens. House them, transport them, feed them, give them EBT cards, give them phones, clothe them, move them into small cities across the country. $66 billion. Not million, billion. Where's that money come from? All right? And now they talk about our Social Security being going to be insolvent. But they can blast $66 billion on illegal aliens. All right? Well, she rung those up. Those come from a government agency. You can look it up, and I'll post her name. But then she said, how can you justify that when by your numbers that you've provided me, you've only spent $3 billion on our homeless veterans? Let that sink in for a moment. The people that went to war for us to protect our way of life, to free people around the world, we've not spent a fraction on them that we've spent on illegal aliens. Now, why Bertel would the leftist extremists in the Democratic Party swing them gates wide open and let all these people in? Well, some of them said it was because they're going to do the jobs that Americans won't do. I don't know about you all, but I did all kinds of menial jobs when I was a teenager, so I could learn a trade. So perhaps the elitist plans to lastly, I want to point out who the Democrats chose to align with to spread their message. Now, they chose to go the route of the elite and the stars and the entertainers and the rich. Now, for being the so-called party of the working man, that did not work. Now, news reports are coming out that Kamala's war chest built up to $1 billion. the truth will come out. That may be the truth. I'm spreading it, but that's what I'm seeing on some major news networks. I've also heard that they paid a lot of those entertainers to perform their concerts at her gatherings. That Oprah Winfrey got $1 million. I saw on a segment where a reporter confronted her on the road. She looked like she had been jogging or something. She definitely wasn't fixed up to be presentable, and looked like a pig, but that's beside the point. But she denied that she was paid $1 million. But there's several sources saying she was, and that all those entertainers were paid. I think that would be so funny and ironic if that ends up being the truth. Where if you support a candidate, you're supposed to support it monetarily, not pull from it. So anyway, and let's face it, there are some people that treat them entertainers and actors and actresses as gods. I never have. Now, I have some that I think are talented. Some of them are even Democrat. That I've watched their movies and enjoy the movies, but I like the characters they play, but I sure don't like them personally. And there's no way I would consider what they recommend to be what would be good for me. No way. I mean, when they're shocked that they don't even know the true price of butter or eggs, that just goes to show you they're not in touch with us. So, picking their representatives to come out in front of us to spread her message, spread the wrong message as far as we're concerned. And again, I'm saying we, because I'm referring to the 300 people I know personally, 250, 300 people. So anyway, you add all that together, and it's no wonder Trump. It's almost amazing that she drew as many votes as she did. But you look at the maps, it's all concentrated mainly in the big cities, the large metropolitan or metropolis areas. So anyway, she didn't. I think the only. Well, of course they got it. You know, in order to get the electorate, in order to get the electoral votes, they got to get the majority in the state. But that just shows that the large cities, how many people live in them, and how that in itself may be detrimental to their health. But that's what they want. I've got a nephew that loves the big city. He loves New York City. He lives here, flyover country, but he spends his vacations in New York City. Anyway. Now, I guess there's one more thing I'll talk about. I mean, there's so many things I can get into, but I'm not going to open them up unless y'all want me to. Just leave me a comment and let me know. But there's one more thing I want to touch on, and that's post-election. And how many things are already changing for the better since Trump's been elected. There's one inadvertent happenstance that I'm sure no one foresaw. And that is, there are a lot of sour grapes. There are a lot of people who are mad, extremely mad, that Trump won. These are, I'm going to call them the far leftists. All right, the radical leftists. You'll see why I'm saying radical. Now, these are women. They made, instead of voting for trying to better just looking out for themselves. The issue was a single issue for them, and it's misrepresented it anyway. But that's what they want. They are mad. They are saying their rights are being removed from them. All right. Now, and this has got to do with abortion. Now, I can talk about that, but I'm not going to get deep. I'm not chasing that rabbit right now. I'm only talking about these crazy women. Now, I'm calling them crazy. What they decided to do is to shave their heads, not have sex with men anymore, whether it be a day. This is post-production. I noticed while doing the editing that apparently my memory stick and my camera filled up and it cut off right when I was getting to the point I was trying to make. And that point was to do with the women shaving their heads. Well, like I was saying, they were going to refuse sex and relationships with men. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that with the election of Trump, he has inadvertently solved the abortion issue, at least for those crazy women. Think about it. All right. There's a whole lot more I could have talked about and touched on in this, what I normally call my forbidden zone. But I just thought, it's just a huge elephant in the room. So, I thought I'd talk about it a little bit. Some of you all may agree with me. Some of you may not. The great thing about this great country is that it's your right to agree or disagree. It doesn't matter. I have the right to voice my opinion. You have the right to voice yours. And hopefully we find a whole lot of middle ground. And go from there. This is the greatest country. We just celebrated the Marine Corps birthday and Veterans Day. So there's so much good that we've got to be thankful for, and we got Thanksgiving coming up. So anyway, if cruising in commentary is cool, and I want to do some more of this, y'all want to hear it? Well, I'll be glad to do it. Just let me know in the comments. If you want me to stick to wrenching on these old things and my tractors, well, I'm fine with that too. So I think I may or may not have pointed it out, and I guess if you've disagreed with me, you've probably already turned the video off. But we need two parties, at least two parties. I don't think it'd be bad to have three, but we need to have checks and balances. And at this point, we've got the Republicans have the presidency and they've got the Senate. I'm hoping that the Republicans can get the House. Not because it will be a clean sweep, or not because, we could say in your face, Democrats. That's not the way it is. I want to give Trump and his administration at least 2 years to try to fulfill the promises made, to take care of the business and get this country going good. He will have, if he does get if the Republicans do get the House, it'll be a far better House of Representatives than there was during his first term, his first 2 years of his first term. Too many never-Trumpers, too many deep state Republicans, too many rhinos were in that first 2 years. So hopefully he'll have someone that'll work with him, and will also provide the checks and balances to keep all 3 branches of government running the way it should be for us people. Because they're supposed to be doing it for us, not us to them. It's government of the people, for the people. And there's times when we got to remind the elitists and those that achieve higher office that they realize this. So, I hope everything's going good with you and yours. Everything's going great here. Can't complain. Won't do me no good to complain anyway. And to tell you the truth, at this particular time, I don't have nothing to complain about. Except for maybe I'm having to cut back on my calorie intake, get my cholesterol down, because I got a checkup coming up. That's why I know Honey Bunny. But anyway, that wouldn't do me no good to complain about it. So just carry on and take care of the business. Have a good one, and I hope to see you around on the next one. See you.